Hi, I'm Lenny Benson. I'm a professor at New York Law School, and I'm really I'm pleased to have Harlan York with me. He's a very experienced immigration lawyer who practices in Newark, New Jersey, and throughout the United States. Harlan, I asked you to come here because my phone has been ringing off the hook since President Obama started talking about deferred action. It's not a DREAM Act, but it's a form of relief to help immigrant youth. Everyone wants to volunteer. All the nonprofits are mobilizing. The law students are emailing, the alumni are emailing, the bar associations are calling. So we're doing this short video to talk to you, the law student or the attorney who wants to get involved and help immigrant youth apply for deferred action. So let's just start with some basics. What is deferred action?
Deferred action is a long existing program that's now being used to help youth who fit certain criteria to stop their deportation and get work permission.
It's basically the prosecutor saying, you are deportable, but I'm not going to deport you.
Right.
What's different about this one is the government is doing this as a wide-scale group of people, and they're going to get work authorization.
Right.
Because in the past, the government sometimes might give someone, we're not going to prosecute you, but they didn't necessarily give them a work identification document. So it's not a green card.
Correct. Definitely not a green card.
And it's not, after I have it for several years, it will turn into permanent resident status.
No path to green card, no path to residency, no path to citizenship.
I think those of you who are watching this, you lawyers, your law students, it isn't the DREAM Act. The DREAM Act, which has passed parts of Congress in the past, was a path to give children who live in the United States, young people who live in the United States, a long time, a path to a green card. This is much less. It's still generous, but it is much less. So if someone wants to volunteer to do this work, do they have to know very much about immigration law? I mean, people are going to come into clinics and they're going to bring evidence of their eligibility. What do you think about a reputable, an ethical law student or lawyer? What should they do to get themselves prepared so they can be of assistance?
I would say familiarize yourself as well as you can with the criteria that has already been published. First of all, by the Department of Homeland Security. Read the memorandum by Janet Napolitano, the Secretary of DHS, that was issued on June 15th, and also familiarize yourself with similar documents that have been so far promulgated and put on the internet by reputable organizations and agencies, starting with, of course, the United States Citizenship and Immigration Services website itself.
So that's uscis.gov, and if you just search the term deferred action, it will take you right to the page where all the documents there are linked. I think what troubles Harlan and I is we want you to volunteer, we want you to get involved, but we're worried that people will treat an application for deferred action like applying for a driver's license.
Mm-hmm.
What are some of the consequences of someone applying for deferred action and that person's not eligible?
You could theoretically be putting yourself on the radar for the government to know you're here and come and get you. Does that mean a 4 a.m. knock on the door with people with machine guns and flak jackets? Perhaps not, but does it mean that they might be notifying you in some way, shape, or form that they're looking to deport you because you don't meet the criteria for deferred action? Absolutely. And I didn't mean to sound too dramatic with that example, but let's face it, one major problem with the deferred action program, if you're not educated to it, is say someone's got a crime on their record.
Right, so we're going to really quickly here go through some of the eligibility requirements for who can qualify for deferred action. But the point of our video is you can understand these criteria. They're not that complicated. What we want you to understand is how it links with deportation law in general and someone's whole life in the United States. So let's go through the criteria quickly. How old do you have to be to apply?
You must be at least 15 years of age, and you cannot be older than age 31 as of June 15th, 2012.
And how long did you have to be in the United States?
You must show at least 5 continuous years of physical presence in the United States.
And what age did you have to enter by? If you were 20 and you entered, was that too late?
Yes, you must have been here prior to turning age 16.
So let's just put those 3 ideas together. You had to be here 5 years, but you had to come before you were 16. You have to be at least 15 to apply, and if you're already over 31, you're not going to be eligible for this program.
Right.
Now, you have to have some education requirements. What are those?
You must either be enrolled in school, already have either a high school diploma or a GED, general equivalency diploma, or there's another part of this deferred action program that allows people who have served in our military to qualify. I'd like to know who those people are. There's
Me
always
too.
a few of them who manage to basically tell our government, I'm here legally, and get enlisted, and now show they've been honorably discharged from our military. So while we don't want to discount that completely, that's out there as another way to qualify.
Those of us who know immigration law listen to the politicians talking about people who serve in our military should be able to qualify for benefits. You can't get in our military unless you are legal. There's always a few people who have had some snafu or perhaps they lied. That's not going to be a big category of people applying
No.
for this. All right. So you have to have your GED or your high school diploma or be in school now, or you could have a bachelor's degree, you could have a master's degree. You know, you have to have some education in the United States, right?
I would say that if you have a bachelor's degree and a master's degree in the United States, it's wonderful. But since the language that we've seen thus far about deferred action specifically indicates high school diploma or GED, it would be a...
Oh, you may not qualify. So if you did your high school overseas, came to the United States for your college, even though you've gotten your master's degree now, you may not qualify for this.
We're not
We don't
certain.
know yet.
We're not certain.
The government has not released a lot of information. Okay, criminal convictions are the big area. And law students, you know, lawyers, you know, these are terms of art. Conviction is actually defined in the immigration law as any admission or finding of guilt. Even nolo contendere is a conviction. Probation is a conviction. Expungements can be convictions. So certain convictions are going to knock people out. But more importantly, it shouldn't be, oh, well, just go ahead and try and see if the conviction's going to bar you. Because if you do have a criminal conviction, you are a high priority for the government to remove you. That's
Without
the government's
question.
#1 priority.
Without
So
question.
certain convictions are going to be absolute bars. Do we know what those are yet?
Immigration word of the day is serious, and that's not defined anywhere in the Immigration Act, but that's the one they've put in the memorandum. So what are we talking about? I'm going to turn the questioner
Well,
into the answerer for a moment.
yeah, so what are we talking about with serious? I have to tell you that most of us don't think a driving under the influence offense where you didn't hurt anybody is a serious offense. I mean, it's not a good thing, but we don't think of it as a serious felony or a serious misdemeanor. The Immigration Service absolutely does. It's one of their definite committed areas to removal enforcement. They think undocumented people who are driving under the influence are a danger to our society.
Yeah, I think without getting too in-depth here, remember, we're speaking to you as the advocates, the people who want to help. This is the most significant part, in my opinion, as an advocate, as an attorney, as somebody who wants to help. We're having that background, as I do, in the deportation and removal defense area with a lot of emphasis on people who've had run-ins with the criminal justice system comes into play. This is not always simple business. It's simple if the applicant for deferred action can show that they've never had any trouble with the police.
So what we'd like to say is don't let the people you're helping guess. You really should advise them they need to get their rap sheet, they need to pay the fee, whether it's an FBI check or a local criminal court check, and get their actual records. You shouldn't be taking their word for what they said the judge said to them or what their conviction was. You really need to even see the statutes under which they were convicted.
Without question.
Now, here's the area where we really want to encourage you. Get involved. You can do it probably through your own law school, through city and county and state bar associations, through lots of nonprofit organizations, and there's so many of them I can't list them all. But one of the reasons we want you to do it through those organized groups and with experienced immigration lawyers is we know people are coming forward because of Obama's great program who qualify for other types of immigration relief. Harlan, could you just share a couple of examples you've seen in the last
Yes,
few weeks?
absolutely. I'll give you a couple of very quick ones, and if you don't know immigration law and you're watching this, don't worry about it. I'll try to keep it as basic as I can. Somebody came in to see me, thought they'd be an excellent candidate for deferred action. One of the things I always ask my potential client is, have you ever been the victim of a crime? They began to tell me a whole story about how they were held up at gunpoint and on, and I said, wait a minute here, you qualify perhaps, and it sounded very likely to be a candidate for something called a U visa. Somebody else came in recently.
Wait, a U visa is not only temporary status with work authorization, it is a path to a green card.
Correct.
So 1,000 times better than just going for deferred action. That's an example where someone who's experienced interviews the person and sees they're eligible for more than just this interim form of protection.
Exactly.
Want to do another one?
Yeah, another one would certainly be the person who thinks I'm here illegally, so I can't get my papers through my spouse who's a U.S. citizen. There's a huge distinction, as we know, and hopefully you're knowing this already or about to find out, between the person who entered illegally versus the person who entered lawfully, even if it was 25 years ago and they've saved proof they've entered lawfully. The person who can prove they entered the United States lawfully, almost always, without crimes on their record, and that's a whole other area, can get a green card through marriage. If they come in and they tell you they're married to a U.S. citizen, that's an area where you want to be looking at getting a green card for them.
So we're trying to keep this short because we could lecture about immigration law for what, 6 or 7 months? It's a complex field. We hope you'll get involved. Here's a couple of things to state if you want to learn more. One, you can go to www.nyls.newyorklawschool.edu/immigration. That's a website we have called the Safe Passage Project, and we'll be putting up-to-date information and letting people know about where there will be community trainings and clinics. And Harlan, you set up a website. Do you want to share yours?
Yeah, I have a site called newdreamact.com. I recognize that it's important for people to hear me. This is not the DREAM Act, but it was easily a way to get people to understand, since the layperson is going to be thinking of this deferred action program as Obama's DREAM Act, or however they choose to call it. So the site, I've set up a microsite, just a one-page site that links to my main website. And again, it's newdreamact.com. I've got the basic criteria listed with a big warning on there in red to tell people, be careful of the unscrupulous practitioner who's not a lawyer, who wants to steal your money and take your case and end up just robbing you blind and ending up, in the worst case scenarios,
Right.
perhaps putting you at risk of deportation.
So we hope you'll get involved in immigration law. We certainly need you all in the field. There are a lot of people who do this work for a living, but there are many people that need pro bono assistance. And I want to thank Harlan for giving his time and look forward to seeing all of you or learning more with you as we go into the pro bono training and clinics as the government releases more information. Thanks a lot.